Welcome to the 2017 ANCR Dinner Roast. We have a fantastic show for you tonight. It begins at 8:30. Around 8:20, we'll come back up here. We'll ask everybody to take their seats. But for now, the food stations are open. Enjoy your food, your drink, your conversation. Enjoy the next hour and a half. And we'll see you in a little while. But before I go, I just want to thank the primary sponsor of tonight's event, CityMed Medical Group. If not for the support of CityMed Medical Group, we would not be able to throw this spectacular event. So thank you, CityMed. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Enjoy the next hour and a half, and we'll enjoy the show in a little while.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Welcome to the 26th ANCR dinner, a night of carousing and roasting. Or for the generation who's never attended this event before, #abuse Jim Abrams. My name is Bob Helbach. I'm your master of ceremonies. I'm here to welcome you tonight to a night of drinking, insults, and drinking. And yes, I said drinking twice, because the more you drink, the funnier we are. Dan Savino asked me to be the MC tonight because he understands the requirement of this job. Pick the most dull and witless guy to be the MC, and that way everybody else up on the dais looks funnier. Which is the same reason Jason Small is here tonight. Generally, anytime that you're not the person being insulted, jokes are humorous. So tonight should be hilarious, since it's all at the expense of our honoree, Jim Abrams. But before we proceed with the insults, I'd like to recognize the executive producer of tonight's event, the man that made this all happen, Mr. Dan Savino. Give Danny a big round of applause. Great job. Mentions everybody, Danny. Great job, really. I gotta give him a special thank you for recognizing my parents tonight with the picture. That was a nice touch. Now we all know that Jim Abrams has been whining about the demise of the ANCR dinner for years. He, of course, was too lazy to reorganize it, so it took him 10 years to finally convince the Patsy to do it. But Dan, you did a great job, really good job. As is the custom, Dan will make a presentation now to Jim's lovely wife Maureen and Jim's daughter Victoria, with a gift that will in no way make up for the abuse that they have to endure tonight. So Danny, where is it?
Yes, we apologize now for what you're about to experience.
Let's have a round of applause for Maureen and Victoria. Now, as an awkward aside, Jim actually met his current wife Maureen at the ANCR dinner more than 20 years ago, when she attended as the date of Jim McCarthy. To this day, Maureen will not say who is the bigger blowhard. Next, I'd like to introduce our dais. First is a veteran roaster of many ANCR dinners. He's a man who's dissolved more law partnerships than Jim Abrams has dissolved marriages. Alan Cadden. Next is a first-time roaster who just came back from Florida, sporting a fake tan. No, it's not Donald Trump, but he's just as opinionated, Jason Smoller. past dinners, but he may be the unluckiest man on the dais. While all of us have spouses who scorn us, his wife Michelle can actually hold him in contempt. Mark Allen. And tonight we have a thespian on the dais. I said thespian on the dais. The star of Brooklyn, Harlem, and any closet that he can plug a microphone into. Bennett Silverstein. Next is another rookie to the panel. A woman who has more pantsuits than Hillary Clinton, Jen Long. Finally, the man of the hour. A man who was so excited for this event that he slept in his tuxedo since the night it was announced. And he has the stains on it to prove it. Ladies and gentlemen, honorary Jim Abrams. Well, before we call up tonight's roastees and unload on Jim, I just want to lead off tonight by recognizing some of the giants in the industry who started this event more than 35 years ago. My dad, Bob Hellbach Sr., got together with some of our colleagues. We thought it would be great for the claimants bar, the carriers bar, insurance company employees, and workers' comp personnel to sit together socially and insult each other face to face for a change, and hopefully share a laugh. To that end, we recognize Bob Hellbach Sr., Ray Gorman, Tom Gleason, Hugh O'Boyle, Larry Klein, who used to sing and play piano at these events, and Mauro Conchistano and Steve Weissman for originating this event, and who were so others that gave us many, many laughs and some really great memories. Now, some of our past roastees are in attendance tonight, and I'd just like to take an opportunity to ask them to stand so they can be recognized. If I could have you all stand, I think we have Ed Hilfer and Rich Felstein, Nancy Gargan, Steve Weissman, Mauro Conchistano. Mauro Conchistano. Did I miss anybody? We also have with us some of our past roast wars. Some of the people who have the guts to come up here and try to roast us as these guys are doing tonight. And I just ask any of those that are in the crowd, I'd ask that you stand, please. I know Patty Tambanelli was here. I know Ted Barriero was here. But thank you guys all. Thank you for all you do. Mark Allen's still here. You ain't gonna believe it. This event is unbiased because we insult everyone. Jews and Goyim, wops and nicks, drunks and philanders, blacks and Puerto Ricans, and especially that most insultable group of all, the judges. Through the years, there were so many funny people who gave us some great memories, some of whom are no longer with us, like Gene Spillane, Mark Jasper, Charlie Gates, and Lou Salvo, as well as others that we miss, but who really weren't as funny. So in the same spirit, we welcome you tonight to make some new memories. This event is presented in the spirit of fun. It's not intended to be hurtful, except of course for insults to Jim, and nobody gives a shit about him. But there are some rules for tonight. First rule of the ANCR dinner, it's like Vegas. What happens in this room, stays in this room. Nobody goes ratting us out to Brodsky, okay? And I can't emphasize this more. Warren Fiquette is never allowed anywhere near a microphone. We listen to him way too much during the day. The third rule for our roasters is try to keep it clean. Except, of course, for Jim Abrams, who just doesn't give a fuck. The caveat to the rule is that if you're particularly sensitive to vulgarity, you're in the wrong room. So something new this year is that Danny has a gun that he'll be using if someone's bombing. Danny actually brought it from home because he was sick of his wife Deanna using it in the bedroom. So if you hear this, your time is up. Up first is the only woman on the dais. Now, I'm no GQ model, but Jen, well, let's just say that her face is so flat that it looks like she ran a 40-yard dash in a 30-yard gym. Certainly, her comedic sexuality will be an issue tonight because, as everybody knows, she is an ANCR virgin. This is not only her first time as a roaster, but she's never even attended a dinner before. But Jim Abrams, being the King Kong of roasties, and I mean ape-looking when I say that, required us to sacrifice a virgin for him to pick on. Now, I was hoping for a blonde, but, you know, I know Jim was hoping for a blonde, but Stephanie Longworth wasn't available or willing. So, Jim, we figured you had a better fighting chance. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome for her virgin performance, Jen Long.
Good evening, everyone. It's so good to see everyone here. And no, Jimmy Hoffa is not here. We don't want, and you gotta be careful, because we don't want you getting penalized for jokes at the party. I see Peter Typograph in the crowd, but you don't see Peter yourself. I think we all noticed that improvement. And Warren, I know you probably have something to say, so just remember to raise your hand and then just put it over your mouth. Nick Urbani is here tonight. Many of you don't know that he used to be a carrier's attorney. Sort of a less masculine version of me. Stay away from that comment. We're all here for our own reasons. Ben is here to pass out flyers for his latest show. Make sure you pick one up on the way out. I'm kidding, I like Ben's show. People say I have no taste, but I liked it. Jason's here because of the open bar and to toss out some jokes, and I've heard them, and that's all they're really good for. Mark Allen is here to work on his next interesting story, his next failed Jeopardy attempt. Answer point of a sharp tongue does not mean a keen mind. Bob Hellbach, well, no one else wanted the job. And Allen, who are we kidding? He didn't have anything else to do. I'm teasing. I would follow him anywhere out of morbid curiosity. Me? I'm here because Jim and I have so much in common. For instance, we were both in the military. Well, I was in the military. Jim was in the Navy. As we Marines like to call it, Uber. Jim is known for his salty sense of humor, and I wanted to clear up the idea that the Navy had anything to do with that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Navy, and you can decide for yourselves if it influenced Jim in any way at all. In the military, we use 24-hour time. For instance, 1300 is 1 p.m., and in the Marines, we call midnight 0 dark 100. In the Navy, they call it all balls. They have all the comforts of home aboard ship, a place to eat, a place to sleep, and bathrooms, which they call the head. They keep the ship clean. They make sure to swab the poop deck. I don't want to talk about Jim's poop deck. But if you ask Jim what the hardest part about getting out of the Navy was, he will tell you it was leaving his buddies behind. Yes, that explains his relationship with Judge Levy. Let's face it, the Navy's just basically boatloads of seamen. Change the subject. Word got out that Jim was the honoree tonight, and sure enough, I received a letter. I think we'd all like to hear it, but Maureen, I am sorry that you have to hear this in front of all these people. Dear darling Jimmy, at long last our seemingly endless game of cat and mouse has ended. I can now smile openly with my memories of you. I can still feel you ramming your powerful glutes into my side, thrusting me into the wall. Whenever I'm blue, all I need to do to feel better is play our wonderful banter. Your nostrils flared, lips tightly pressed, so inviting I could barely contain myself. I can still feel the heat rising to my face, my mouth waiting to feel your mustache chafing my skin. And your voice, the passion, the fire, the sound effects. What woman could ever resist your Donald Duck? Your Barry White, your fuck you. All those times you were stern with me, chills run through me still. I don't understand why you never made it big in voice work. But your true feelings could not remain hidden. When you rushed to defend me from the angry claimant, I knew our connection couldn't be denied. I had to ban you from my part to simply get through the day. And when that didn't work, I had to depart. However, you remain in my dreams and I remain forever yours, Patty Harris. So it's time for a drink for me, Jim, may your days be joyful, and your nights used to find some new gems.
As I said before, our next roaster just got back from Florida today. But I hear that he was desperate for material, so he bought some jokes from Eddie Helfer. Jason doesn't realize he's screwed. They're all in Yiddish. So at Caruso Spillane, if Danny is the face of the firm, and Ron Walters is the brain, Valley Malloy is the eyes of the firm, and our next speaker is definitely the mouth. He's a roaster not because anybody finds him funny, but because he says shit that no one else will say. So Danny thinking, yeah, how could it hurt? Put him up on stage. Get the apology letters ready, Danny. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Jason Smollett.
It's going to be longer than you used to. That's fine. Good evening, everybody. Late bad hombres, nasty women, nice to see you here tonight. Thank you. Welcome to the ANCR 2.0. Like all big reunion shows, this one's overhyped, overpriced, and full of aging rock stars past their prime. Tonight we honor, for some reason, Jim Abrams, who in the same vein as those big reunion shows will tell the same jokes tonight that he did back in the 90s. Tonight's going to be a little sweet, extremely dirty, and full of 6 men and 1 woman taking turns going at it. Just like in the old days with Jim's mother. Tonight's festivities by the planning of my partner in Office Lover and the inspiration for the movie Soul Man. It's just in time for Easter, he decided to bring ANCR back from the dead, just as Jim again will do with those same fucking jokes. Anyway, Dan, thanks for asking me to cut my trip short. I'm potentially embarrassed myself up here. Not
Hey, Jason, they bring Tostitos, you know.
Thank you, Rich. Danny, where's Deanna? Deanna, you here? See you, bro, your wife, Deanna. Deanna, lovely to see you as always. Beautiful. You never age. In fact, your tits don't look a day over 21. But I digress. Remember, folks, there's a 4-hour open bar and a blowjob stand in the back, manned by Nick Raquani, Gail Fisler, and Mickey Morms. For an extra $1, Gail will lift up her skirt and show you her tits. Nick, you on the way out tonight to grab your favor. It's a big dildo with Governor Cuomo's face on it, so when you're done getting fucked at the door, you can go fuck yourself at home. I think Joe Romano's here. I never actually seen him, but I've heard ghost stories. Joe was supposed to be the designated survivor tonight. He was supposed to be a secure bunker, so if something happened to everybody here, he could fuck up calm for the rest of the night. Firms are here, Jones firm, Billy Jones. What's your fetish for beautiful Irish and Italian women and Orthodox Jewish men? You should really see his Tinder and Grindr profiles. Stuart Greenblatt, where are you, Stuart? There you guys are. Even Madge Greenblatt did tonight. She gave up teaching that S&M class. And Ricardo Baez is here. Thank you, Ricardo, for coming. No one told ICE Ricardo was going to be here. If they come looking for him, you jump under the table, we'll give him Feldstein, all right? Foley Smith is here. Foley, always have a special place in my heart for my former firm. Steve Weissman taught me you can never take too many vacations. And it's great. It's great that he's passing that knowledge down to the next generation. The one thing that makes many law firms so great, nepotism. Wes Wexler is here as well. 13 people, or about 2% of the firm. Chris, Ron, Jerry, guys will never pass up something that someone else is paying for. Also, one of my favorite people here, Maggie Tam. I remember starting Maggie. I remember when Maggie was the only Asian. Remember that, Maggie? Those are the good old days, right? Mike Guillaume was supposed to buy a table, but between all the review board penalties and constantly having to buy babies for Patricia Sweeney to eat, he didn't have the extra cash. Plus, he's got to pay for the cost of keeping Carl Sachs alive in that cryogenic chamber. Unfortunately, Marty Crystal could not be here tonight. He's doing a trial still in Flanagan's Park. Marty, I love you. Well, not love you, I accept you the way you accept an ugly child. You know? But Marty lost a ton of weight. You see, Marty? His head didn't get any smaller. It's a giant human bobblehead. Who else is here? Shane Doer's here. Is she? I really don't want to be punched in the balls. Ed Hilfer, as Ed. What's up, Ed? Ed always smiling, offering words of encouragement to everybody. Thanks, Ed, for taking a night from chasing the Smurfs to show up here. Appreciate that. Look it up, Google that, please. And his partner in crime and co-comp Radiac Ronald Walder. When those two get together, start talking comp. It's a lesson now, get the fuck out of there. They're like our own Abby Costello. Except they're two Costellos, and neither of them is funny. But I love Ron, the only atheist who takes off all the Jewish holidays. And I love Nancy, his wonderful wife, even more. Hi, Nancy. Where's Nancy? Did you know that Ron started the title of Nancy's autobiography? Nancy Bergen, always on top. Those books would be for sale outside, fully illustrated. Let's have a few judges here as well tonight. Who's next? So Judge Gill, Judge Golden. Tempt of the Beast, huh, guys? Nice. Judge Gill, the only question I have is, will Bloomfield take a long enough break from masturbating to the permanency guidelines in his office to replicate? Yes. I wish Judge Silver was here. That's who I really wish was here. We've had our ups and downs, you know. In fact, George Carlin once said, shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, and tits with the 7 words you can't say on TV, but those are the words I say when walking into a seaside trial. You know, she does not like me, I don't know why. I've tried to make up with it, I've tried to make up to her every day. Every day. Every day I try, her bedroom window is locked. But enough about the losers in the audience and those not here. Let's talk about the losers up here for a moment. The Seven Dwarfs. Drinky, Skippy, Angry, Leslie, Beardy, Lumpy, and Fuck You. Jen Long, I consider Jen a friend, a great friend. Had the pleasure of being at Jen and Amy's wedding. So little girl. She's a Marine, she's a great attorney, and she's funny as hell, except tonight. She's literally one of my favorite people off the calendar. On calendar, on depot, or wherever you may be on her other side, she will rip off your nuts and feed them to you. Now, I know some people like that Stu Goldstein, but I prefer never to draw that short. So you could be on my team anytime. Jen often opposes Tom Saida and has to appear regularly before Judge Donovan. So anyone who thinks Jen Long can't handle dicks is great. Cross those off, okay? Next up, we have Bennett Silverstein. Bennett, our own minister of silly walks. We love you, Bennett. Bennett's been trying to get him his days back since Bob Hellbach had hair. Somehow he convinced Dan by promising not to stick his dick in the mashed potatoes this week. Still good with that? Bennett's doing claimants work now. No one thought that day would ever become a special awardee. Sure enough, Bennett finally chewed through those ropes. In fact, the film 12 Years a Slave was actually based on Bennett's Tommy Fisher Brothers. They had to tone the movie down a bit because no one would believe what actually happened working for Mr. Holloway. We also have Alan Cadden, permanent ANCR straight man. Alan has been on his dais like 20 times, right, Alan? I promise I'm trying to be funny this year, Alan. All right, Charlie Brown, keep trying to keep that full. But I do like Alan. Alan hires like Billy Jones hires, and that's why I like him. In fact, Alan hired one of my other favorite people, comp shot girl, Mona Simone. Alan went through a midlife crisis a while back. He began dyeing his hair different colors. Remember this? Anybody? Every week it looked like a different fruit. At one point he was mistaken for Carmen Miranda and he had to stop. And for years Alan was a claimant scandal. Then one day it happened. He called his parents and said, Mom, Dad, I have to tell you something. I'm a carrier's guy. They were very supportive and the rest is history. Plus we have Mark Allen, the funny one, the funny Jew. He's so funny. Fucking Mark Allen, so funny. I can't wait to be there with the laughter stops on. After years of taking orders from every dwarf, Neil Abrams, Mark left to start his own firm with Andy Goldberg, the Edward Norton of comp. Mark, with blind faith and limited comp knowledge, took the plunge. He started his firm with nothing, and I'm happy to say he still has that today. It's strange though, I don't have that much material about Mark because I don't see him enough. Really, I have in my outline lawyer and beard, that's it. I have nothing to work with here. Well, actually, that's what I heard from Michelle. To his credit, however, while we go get fucked by these judges every day, no offense judges, Mark gets to go fuck with himself. I call that winning. Michelle calls that tolerance. Bobby Hellbach, on behalf of everyone here, I want to thank you for making the trip all the way from your home on Easter Island. I know the airlines charge more nowadays for that extra headroom seats. It is very impressive. Bob was one of the first good attorneys I met back in '01. I actually met his partner Joe Napa first. I thought they needed some sort of quota to be met or something. Bob's knowledge is truly impressive. He's like Walter. If you stretched him out, it made him interesting. I also learned that I'm an anger amateur. Ever see Bob get mad? Especially in the city? That face gets red as shit. That Irish anger scale is 5 Jameson shots. Actually, the Department of Homeland Security's terror alert scale is based on Bob's face when he gets mad. He starts at severe threat. But Bob, honestly, Bob is a tremendous attorney. Literally. He's an angry giant who's out of fucks, and you should all stay the fuck out of his way. And last but not least, we have the man of the hour, the honoree of the shit show, Jim Abrams. You know, when Dan told me about reviving ANCR on Jim, I thought, really? Why didn't we do this when Jim was alive? Jim Abrams, the soft-spoken, judge-loving ex-seaman. Jim, the man who made Brian Midman shit his pants and then eat it before going out on his own to terrorize Harlem like white slut. But generally, Jim always has a kind word, unless you're Patty Harris or Judge Bluefield or a person asking him a question or someone standing near him. Why are we doing this again, Dan? I can go, a few more, alright? That's alright. You all know that Jim worked for Foley Smith for like 5 or 10 minutes, right? Jim kind of set the tone during his interview with Steve Weissman. Steve asked, Jim, what would you consider your worst quality? Jim answered, I'd have to say my honesty. Steve said, I don't believe being honest is bad quality at all. Jim looked at Steve and said, I don't give a fuck what you think of the fuck. I know that Jim only works so he can pay for his luxury vacations with his lovely wife, Maureen. Most of you have met Maureen. I still don't get it, Maureen. Run, please. Any sins you've committed are forgiven, I promise you. But Jim also boasted that in the younger years he never had to pay for sex. Of course, in those days he was able to outrun all the pets. But eventually his knees got worse and he decided to settle down. And it's interesting how Jim and Maureen met. After stealing a rose to bring back to her father, Maureen's father was caught by Jim and locked away in his castle. Maureen went looking for Jim and took his place, but she ultimately learned to love him, just as he was about to run out of time. But unlike the movie, Jim remains an angry beast. I thought that was a good one. You know, Jim's getting older, so I asked him recently, so are you still sexually active? Jim said, not really. I kind of lay there now and hope for the best. Jim, I kick his I love you, Jim. He's not always an angry asshole. For 7 hours a day, he's a sleeping asshole. Jim, you are our asshole, and there's no one I'd rather have in my back. I said, I really do love you, and you've made this place we call the work home a lot more fun than it should be. I'm thrilled to be up here with literal and figurative giants of the industry, sharing a few jokes, a few drinks, in your honor. I hope I made you proud, and if not, I do not give a shit.
What was Chloe drinking? Gin and tonic? I think so. Cool.
Our next roaster is Workers' Compensation's answer to the Pillsbury Doughboy. He's just cute and sweet. However, don't poke his billowy middle. It's not dough. At his age, it's just gas. Ladies and gentlemen, Alan Captain.
I just want to say that nobody in this room had a better time listening to Jason than Jason. And I want to thank you, Jason, for breaking every tradition we've ever had in ANCR. And in case you're wondering, Danny already has it posted on Facebook. He's looking for a new partner. So good evening and welcome to the revived ANCR roast. This is a new and updated version. And I got to wondering, why did they ask me to be on the dais? I'm old school, I did it for many, many years. And then I thought about it and I figured it out. It has to be funny, it's got to be successful so that we can continue having it. And in order to be funny, I mean, there's nothing funnier than fat jokes, right? So here I am, but then I thought a little more and I said, wait, they have Jim Abrams. Anyway, so what I decided to do this year is turn the tables and do all the fat jokes myself. Here goes all your material. So I was a fat kid. In school, my favorite musical instrument was the lunch horn. I was so fat, I used to go to KFC to lick other people's fingers. And you know how at amusement parks, at the roller coaster, they have this pole that says you have to be this high to ride? When I got up there, they turned it sideways. And by the way, you know how to seduce a fat guy? Piece of cake. Now, many of you have or have had young children, and what's the most embarrassing thing that can have with a young kid is when they walk in your bedroom and catch you in the act. So my daughter actually did that to us one time, and the next morning, she asked my wife, "Mommy, why were you bouncing on Daddy's belly last night?" And my wife said, "Well, I have to do that, honey, or his belly gets way too fat, and that keeps it smaller." My daughter said, "That's not going to work, Mommy." She said, "Why?" She said, "Because the babysitter keeps blowing him back up." So, Bennett's first timer up here. Joining us this evening. Bennett's very, very talented. He's quite the crooner. In fact, he even resembles Frank Sinatra a bit. Dead 20 years. And you know, Bennett suffers from a bit of ADD, and at one of the hearings, the judge told him, "It's time for a presentation of summations." And Bennett replied, "Let's go ride our bikes." And next to Ben, we have another newbie, Jen. And Jen, I just want to say that's a fantastic jacket. Your bozo asked me to remind you he needs a back Saturday. Now, when Jen first started in the business, I asked her where she was from, and she said, "My family, we moved around quite a bit when I was a child because my father thought he was in the military." That's a Marine joke. You know, Jen is an ex-Marine. When she goes to the hairdresser, she still asks for a high and tight. Once I asked Jen if she ever killed anybody in the service, she said, "Probably, I was the cook." All right, I'm not going to say anything else about Jen because, frankly, she scares the crap out of me. All right, now that we got the newbies out of the way, we can get vicious. So let's see, who's in the audience tonight? You know, I noticed one thing. All the guys are really pimped out tonight. They're dressed really well-groomed and fashionably dressed, much unlike when they go to the board. And especially the Lace of Worn Out boys. And then I realized it's because Don Salvo's here. And let's see, who else is in the audience? It's my honor to introduce the former Vice President of the United States, Joseph Biden. Would you please stand up? Oh, it's just Gruber. And once again, we have our trusted MC and buddy, Bob back. What can you really say about Bob? Except that he has the largest head in recorded human history. But, I mean, he was born that way. As a baby, he used to wake up and tip over. It's not like there's anything you can do about it. I mean, what's he going to do, go to a gym? Bob's head is so big that his ears are in different time zones. But he could solve a big political problem. His head is so big, Trump is substituted for the wall along the Mexican border. Now, back to Jason, another virgin up here. Jason has a bit of a self-esteem problem. It's much too high. In fact, if you're looking for a way to injure yourself so you can get out of work, all you have to do is climb his ego and jump to his IQ. I mean, if Jason ever really spoke his mind, he'd be speechless. Once Jason asked me, what's the difference between a G-spot and a golf ball? And I told him a man will search for a golf ball. But I do want to be serious for a minute, and let's all give props to Dan Savino, the moving force behind reinstating the ANCR venom. Without Dan and his office and his wife Deanna and Mona Samari and a few others, we wouldn't be here tonight. So again, a big hand for all of them. Now besides all of that, is Danny not the coolest guy in all of workers' compensation? I mean, he's so cool he makes ice cubes jealous. I get a tan just looking at him. And really, Danny is so cool, he only masturbates to pictures of himself. I want to give a quick shout out to my folks, the Chartwell crew right down here. All right, stand up, stand up. Stand up. Smile. Wave. Sit down. Wow, it's just like when they go to hearings. I have to give them step-by-step instructions. When we first started, the ladies were called Alan's Angels. And then some jerk in HR maybe hired the guys. And I'm sure you know our ringleader, Mona Samari. When I first hired her, I didn't know she was alcoholic until she showed up at the office sober one day. But you have to give it to her. She's always prepared when she heads out to drink. She makes sure she's got her bail money in her purse. All right, who else is here? Someone mentioned Judge Gill. Judge Gill, yeah, he comes to all the workers' comp events and hangs out with us. Don, isn't it about time you made some normal friends? And I think Judge Camino is here. Yeah, he just recently became a workers' comp law judge. Guess he can't get a real job, huh? And rounding out the Three Stooges is Judge Golden, who's here as well. And then, of course, we have Mark Allen. One thing you can tell when Mark is well-dressed, Rochelle picked his clothes out. Do you know why his wife never blinks during sex? Because there isn't enough time. One night, Mark was gasping and calling Michelle's name in bed. I guess she didn't hold the pillow down long enough. And that brings us to our guest of honor, the one and only James Abrams. Jim has been around the block a few hundred times. I mean, he's so old he went browsing in an antique shop and they sold him. And you cannot tell Jim to act his age. He'll die. So Jim was born in a hospital in the Bronx in 1916. And following the first principle of medicine, do no harm, his obstetrician couldn't decide whether to save him or kill him. And as so often happened to Jim over the years, because of his last name, he was mistaken for a Jew and circumcised. Unfortunately, the young mold bit too much off the top, leaving him with a very short dick and a deep-seated dislike for Jews. Now, this part is true. Before becoming a lawyer, Jim had a long and undecorated career as a lineman for the phone company. So to show you what a valued employee he was, they actually paid his tuition to go to law school. Isn't that right? And then when he graduated, they refused to hire him for the legal department. Pretty good plan, I'd say. So, Jim got a job as a workers' competence attorney working for Foley Smith of Boyle and Weissman, launching his second career. But he pretty quickly moved on to a much higher class operation, Markov and Minden, where the partners specialized in hockey and clarinet concerts. Unfortunately, Jim was disappointed after switching to the claimant side when he found out that he couldn't have sex with his clients. He asked Brian Mittman why, and he was told that it was to prevent the clients from being billed twice for essentially the same service. So Jim left and started his own practice, but it's been hard for him to maintain as a bit of dementia has begun to set in. For instance, Jim used to give me really good advice, but recently he told me, always look out for number one. And then he wet himself. But, you know, one of the nice things about senility is last week Jim was able to hide his own Easter eggs. You do have to be careful on calendar, though, with Jim, because when he tells you something, he's often lying through his tooth. And Jim, I do have to tell you, I think it's kind of unfair that you've told all these fat jokes about me, because you could have actually helped me lose weight. If you had told your wife to stop giving me a cookie after every time we had sex. So that's all I have to say about Jim, except that it's been a pleasure and a privilege knowing and working with you and sharing and comparing our jokes all these years. Best wishes to you and Maureen.
Yeah, you know, Alan, it's a little bit torturous watching Alan as a roaster. He thinks he's channeling Don Rickles, but he really just looks like he's reading a shul. I'm very excited to hear from our next roaster tonight. Bennett recently made the jump from the carrier side to the claimants. However, we're not sure how it's working out. It seems that he's so pale that he's scaring the claimants. They see him walking into the waiting area and they think he's a compensation zombie. Which, to be fair, is what people look like when they're coming out of Judge Levy's court. Now, I know that the only reason that Danny moved the event to this venue tonight was because it had a stage on it. And that was the only way that Bennett could get credit for his SAG card. But Bennett, you will be on a short leash tonight because, as anyone who has tried a case before you knows, whether you speak, but as anybody who's ever tried a case with Bennett knows, whether you speak or sing, every time you open your mouth, it's like an eternity. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome up for his ANCR premiere, Bennett Silverstein. Not that everybody's not special up on the dais here tonight, but Bennett's been trying to get up here for a long period of time, so we have a special gift for Bennett, just to kind of commemorate his opportunity to speak tonight. Bennett. Open it now, Bennett. We want everybody to see what it looks like.
I have another one just like it. Hey, do you think maybe I could wear this to the board? You know something? I've been waiting a very long time to say what I'm about to say. But, eat your heart out, Bobby. You're about to see what a real song parody sounds like. You'll wonder why I wear this hat. This hat should tell you where this dinner's at. Now just fasten your seatbelts tight. You're in for a raunchy night. Well, take tonight after 14 years, like we all need this for all our careers. We've missed this night so much. You're all gonna find out we ain't lost the to have some fun. Tonight we make chop meat of everyone. It's the Hellbot, it's the ANCR dinner. We choose a man we want to roast and make him feel like a piece of toast. It's the small arm, it's the ANCR dinner. Song, I will proceed to tear up Gen Long, then I'll relish the pleasure of turning on you. But before I'm through, I'll roast the man who taught us all to scratch our scrotums and have a ball. We'll haircut him and Savino, making fun of Judge Tonino. Then we'll pass the mic to Jim. That's the dinner. Whenever I perform, I always take these off and get performing. You know something, my friends tell me, Bennett, without your glasses on, I don't recognize you. I say to them, without my glasses on, I don't recognize you either. To this lovely retirement party that we're all giving Judge Harris. You know something? You know, many years ago, you know, before Bob Barker did The Price is Right, he did a show called Truth or Consequences. Who remembers that show? Now, on Truth or Consequences, you were given a question to answer. You couldn't answer it. You had to pay the consequences. So, the question for tonight is, how does a court reporter become a multi-millionaire? Time's up. How does a court reporter become a multi-millionaire? Very simple. Let's give him the depot with Bennett Silverstein on one end and Jen Wong on the other. What does the court reporter do with $1 million? Time's up. What does the court reporter do with $1 million? He spends it on carpal tunnel surgery. Oh, you know something? I haven't looked this cute since I did the Bubba dinner back in 1995. That night I had on the craziest costume. I was so cute in that costume. Mark Allen kissed me. State, I was still working for State Fund at the time, and talking about State Fund, my old State Fund boss, Teddy Boris, is here tonight. I remember when Ted retired, Debbie Robinson, the hostess with the mostest, threw on this party, the Captain Sketch. A funny thing happened to me on the way to that party. I went there wearing Joel Glove's raincoat. He had taken mine. Now Joel lines his pockets with Lexington chalk. I'm walking down Pine Street, the pockets are sagging on me. And running true to form, Joel is the last one who shows up that night. I'm walking all over Ted's party going, where's my coat? I remember everyone who was there. You know who else was there that night? Ron Balser and Andy Bergen were there that night. One day the little bastard, that's what I want to call him, he comes running home to Nancy. He goes, Mommy! The boy next door said my daddy can make you a daddy. So Nancy says, well, what did you say to him when he said that to you? He says, I told him the truth. I said, big deal. So can my mommy. On their wedding night, they're dancing, and Ron says, I shouldn't have been a lawyer. I should have stuck to dancing. And she says, you're dancing like you're stuck to something. And you know who was sitting right next to them that night at that dinner? Danny Savino. Danny and I, we really go back years, and I remember when Danny was first starting out. Do you know Danny almost became a claimant himself? Danny had a horrible accident. His hair got caught in a chandelier. And I remember who also was there that night. My good friend Bob Bergman was there that night. He stood up at Ted's party and he said, the nicest bar mitzvah I've ever been to. Which is really interesting considering that he said the exact same thing at the party that Debbie threw for me when I passed the bar. I guess he says that at every party he comes to uninvited. But that was when I was working for State Insurance Fund. I don't work for them anymore. I work for Ugalde and Razonga now, doing what I really love doing, representing injured workers. And people ask me, why didn't you go to carry claims? I tell them quite frankly, I got tired with doing depots with any hoofer on me. The night Ted Francisco interviewed me, within 1 hour, Ted calls me and he says, you're hired. He says, Ted, how did you hire me so quickly? He says, you thought enough of us that you went and you bought a new suit for the interview. I said, how did you know I was wearing a new suit? He says, you forgot to take the price tag off. Now, I've always been embarrassed by my initials. But one day, Francisco and I, we had a stip and we had to change it. So I put down BS and he puts down FU. And it took me 3 hours to figure out that FU didn't stand for Felix on. Now, when I started working for Ugalde and Razonga, every single attorney asked me the same question. Bennett, it's been 16 years since you left State Fund. How come we didn't see you all that time? Where were you all that time? We didn't see you. And I told them, quite frankly, I was out of the country. I was working for the president of Iceland for 16 years. And when I got back to the United States, a reporter asked me, well, did you like working in Iceland? I said, I didn't like the laws there. In Iceland, they don't let you wear caps like that. Morris. Well, you know, now it's time for me to divert my attention to the man that we're speaking tonight. And you know, it's very, very difficult for me to really say anything bad about Jim. I'm going to tell you why. I would not be standing here tonight had it not been for Jim Abrams. You see, it isn't only because Jim asked that, you know, they said, give Bennett a chance, put him up here. I don't think I would have passed the bar had it not been for him. You know, I failed the bar 6 times. I passed on number 7. I wanted to give up. And you know how many times this man said to me, you're not giving up because I won't let you. And there is no one who provides laughter the way Jim does, and I think Jim makes us realize something very important. This dinner is not a luxury we can't afford. This dinner is a necessity we cannot afford not to do. You know, with the Big Apple Circus, the Ringling Brothers Circus, both going out, that's a hell of a lot less laughter in a world that desperately needs it. But you know, the one thing that really stands out about Jim, I'm going to tell you, you know, Jim does things none of us would ever think of doing. You know, for example, let me tell you, you know, anybody can request to cross-examine a claimant. We all do that. Anybody can request to cross-examine a doctor. We all do that. But this is the only man who ever said to the judge, Your Honor, I want to cross-examine your uncle. You know, the judge said to him, don't give me that garbage, Mr. Abrams. My uncle was in the real estate business. He knew how much apartments were worth. And to those of you who don't even know who the hell I'm imitating, welcome to Truth, Purpur, or Consequences. That is all I can say. Now they're coming up to drag me away. If I didn't mention you, I'll get you next year. And we're gonna be there. Now here's a switch, and here's a shock. I'm actually stopping right on the clock. That's delightful. That's delicious. That's delectable. That's delirious. Now I'll pass it back to Helllock, and for more of this crazy dinner.
Tonight, because the last crowd this size that paid to see him perform was at his bar mitzvah. Good job. Now, I'm not saying that our next roaster is henpecked, but the way that he complains in the attorney room about carpooling, homework, and sick kids, he should be starring in a new reality TV show with Shane Dorr, Ann Donahue, and Jackie Golden called The Real Housewives of Workers' Compensation. Oh, the drama. Ladies and gentlemen, our next roaster, Mark Allen.
The ANCR has a long and storied history. The ANCR has a long and storied history. I remember the first ANCR that I attended. The year was 1993, my first year out of law school. So I have to ask, how many of you people out there were in elementary school in 1993? Fucking assholes. Yes, Alan's whole table. At the ANCR that year, they were honoring some guy named Cappy. Do you remember that? Cappy? I was a brand new attorney at Reisman, Abramson, and Magro, and if any of you in the crowd can remember any of those guys, Cappy, or Charlie Reisman, or Jack Abramson, or Mike Magro, it is probably long past your bedtime, Jerry Cohn. Back then, I didn't even know who Cappy was. There was one board, and it was just full of old white guys walking around in sport jackets. Just loud sport jackets. There was Cappy, there was George Duquesne, who was 125 years old, and there was a guy named Charlie Cates, who used to walk around giving candy to everybody, right? One day he walked up to me and he goes, "Hey kid, you want some candy?" And I was like, "I am not falling for that again." That's the last time I saw my parents. In those days, the ANCR was a glorious wonderland, with very, very funny people on the dais and Alan Capkin. And apparently, Richard Feldstein wanted everybody to know that they were tuxedos, you cheap bastard. Men and women dressed in their finest clothes, separate bathrooms for colored people, and this whole neighborhood was orange groves as far as the eye could see. Every year, it was the annual night of carousing and roasting. The next year, I think they honored Ed Hilfer, who at the time had a beautiful shock of Jewish curly hair. It didn't matter who, it didn't matter what was going on, everybody had a lot of fun. And one of the people who would always stand out is our guest of honor, James Arthur Abrams. I could say a lot of great things about Jim Abrams, but this is neither the time nor the place. Some people call Jim an ignorant asshole. All right. Rich Feldstein wants people to know that everyone calls him an ignorant asshole. As Alan said, Jim worked as a union man for the phone company for many years, where he failed spectacularly. Jim then went to law school and joined the comp world, where he continued his tradition of failing over and over again in as many places as possible. Jim was like the Johnny Appleseed of failure. He failed at Foley Smith. He failed at Reisman Abramson. He failed at Public Service Mutual. He failed after only 6 weeks at Stuart Greenblatt, which is his most efficient failure to date. And of course, he failed at Walk-Off Mittman. In other words, if you were in this room, there is a good chance that that persistent foul smell in your office is the spot where Jim used to fake his dictation. Now Jim does per diem work, where he can fail for multiple firms in one day. Jim brought his union skills to the legal world, where he would pinpoint the best times of day to focus on his many long, long breaks. He knew the best time to leave the board and go across the street to Tammy's to have coffee, or to go to Tammy's to have bread pudding, or to go to Tammy's and have lunch, or to go back to Tammy's and have more coffee. Union, yes! Jim can always be found with his go-getter posse of old Jews who have long since been re-released into their natural habitat of Florida and are all dead. I first got to know Jim when we were both attorneys at Reisman Abramson. And Jim was my first mentor. Of course, Stu Goldstein worked there too, and at the time he had a beautiful shock of Jewish curly hair. But Stu could not mentor me because he was too busy doing other things, like artfully eating the ass of some UPS shop steward. Jim and I became pals, and he would always talk about his beloved ANCR dinner. Over the years, I got to see him perform in some of his classic ANCR characters. Who could forget drunk psychiatrist, drunk surgeon, drunk preacher, drunk fortune teller, and town drunk. He even continued his characters back in the office. There was drunk attorney, or he would follow me to the bathroom where he would be drunk men's room attendant. I remember I would be standing in the urinal and he would come in and I would feel a little something on my butt and he would say that classic line, "Hey, how'd my finger get in there?" Classic Jim. Now that I think about it, maybe you just had a drinking problem. This is not a roast, this is an intervention. Please lock the doors. Everyone in this room is about to give testimonials about how your drinking has adversely affected their lives, starting with Maureen. Thank you. I'm kidding, of course. Jim is not an alcoholic. It's not like he's constantly posting pictures of beer on Facebook. No, that is Jason Smoller. Has anybody else seen this? Of his last 100 posts, 91 have been pictures of beer. The rest have been pictures of his daughter's dance competitions. Very nice, no one cares. Or anti-Trump rants. The guy was just on vacation for a week, and you decide what he loves more. 2 pictures of beer, 1 post about his kids. These are actual posts from Jason Smoller's Facebook feed this week. This is true. High Lie Beer, the best IPA in Central Florida. What the fuck is that? The best IPA in Central Florida is like being the best looking stripper in the afternoon shift. And this is from yesterday. Wednesday night hops. Last night of vacation and checking out the Clear Sky Draft House. Great beer list. You can only see one of his hands because the other one is obviously on his dick. So, Maureen, if there's anything you would like to say about Jason's drinking problem, please come on up. Actually, Maureen is a very good sport for putting up with Jim all these years. When I met her, I asked her, "Did you get lost in Jim's deep blue eyes?" And she said, "No, I got lost in his giant old man pants." Old man pants. She told me that their marriage is still going strong, but Jim always falls asleep right after sex. Maureen is the opposite. She falls asleep right before they have sex. I digress. Eventually, I was asked to be on the dais of the ANCR. I asked Jim for some pointers, so he gave me some old VHS tapes. That is true, VHS tapes. Do you guys know what a VHS tape is? Say, fuck you, assholes. There was some great stuff on those tapes. Classic bits from Bob Helbach Sr., Ray Gorman, Mauro Contrastano, Hugh Boyle, and even Alan Katkin, who had a beautiful shock of Jewish, curly, naturally colored hair. Bob Helbach Jr. was there too, but his hair was just sad and garish and wispy, like it was just giving up. For my first ANCR, Jim sat next to me on the dais, and I will never forget the words you said to me as Bob Helbach called me up to do my first routine. He said, "You'll always be a filthy, dirty Jew." And he was right, of course. Like everything else, the ANCR died off. But here we are all again with this sorry excuse for a dais. Our fearless leader, Bob Helbach, is here. I have no jokes about him because he is tall and handsome and all-American. You are like what would happen if they gave the Captain America serum to Bennett Silverstein. Bennett Silverstein, a natural-born performer, finally gets to know what it's like to perform before an audience. And this year, for the first time, I had to write a bunch of lesbian jokes because Jason Smoller is up here. We should all be proud of Jason, but you can tell just by looking at his face, he obviously overcame fetal alcohol syndrome. The great Alan Captain is up here. And if you listen very closely, you can hear his last routine from 2003 just ending. Jen Long is up here. Jen is a proud lesbian, and dare I say, an obvious lesbian. She makes even my gaydar fly off the scale, and I am mostly straight. Mostly, a little straight. But there's a story about one gentleman in our industry who was smitten with her. His name rhymes with Sam Flat. Somehow he could not tell. No offense, but really? Softball player? Check. Marines? Check. Pantsuit every day? Check. Drives a Subaru? Check. Married to a woman? Check. Has a t-shirt that says, and this is true, vegetarian. But my man Sam thought he had a shot. Her business card says amateur gynecologist, but he could not tell. I think you let a good one get away. I know you were nervous about tonight, but I would really like to borrow that jacket because I have some lions to tame later on. But Jim Abrams is the man of the hour, and we're all looking forward to whatever drunk character you'll be playing this year. You and I go back a very long way, and you were always there for me. You were a good man then, and you are a good man now. You deserve better than this awful, awful dais. But sadly, you don't always get what you deserve. I love you very much.
Nice job, Mark. You earned a night at your favorite comic book store. Mark likes to think of himself as the Hulk in the bedroom, but Michelle refers to him as her Spider-Man. All hands, no stinger. I admire the fact that Jim was willing to be the roastee tonight because to do so he had to write his own material. Usually Jim wants nothing to do with anything requiring any work. So we're all a little nervous when Jim's turning the mic because he has a dark side. In fact, he considers himself the Darth Vader of the Harlem Hearing Point. But at least Darth Vader had the decency to wear a mask. Ladies and gentlemen, let me just say before we make our presentation, Jim, you're a good sport, you're a good man, you're a good friend. It was my pleasure to be up here to salute you tonight. Let's give a big round of applause to Jim Abrams. I'd like to call Dan Savino up here, and I'd like to ask Dan to come up and make a presentation, please.
Congratulations, Jim. It's not much, but it is tradition. It's the best we can do on a tight budget. You. That's all you.
Ladies and gentlemen, warm welcome for our honoree tonight, Jim Abrams.
Holy shit. Now, before I start, I've been fighting the cold all week. You'll have to excuse me if I get raspy at the end. I've just been fighting this cold. To start with, I know you've heard about these people before, but there are two people I want to mention. Bob Helbot Sr. He started the ANCR dinner with Gordon gentleman, Larry Linhart, and they ran it for years and years. Hellbach Sr. was witty, he was gregarious, he was a real gentleman, and I miss him. Another one I miss is Gene Spillane. He was one of the funniest, if not the funniest person we've ever had on the dais. He was nutty, he was crazy, and he was one of the most giving people I've ever met. He will be truly missed. The dinner is not the same without these two people. Please give them a round of applause. Now, having said that, I would like to point out it's really, really hard for these roasters to do what they do. I did it for 12 years in a row. It sucks. You have to get jokes, you have to get people, you have to match them, you have to do segues. It's really, really hard. Bob Hellbach Jr., he has to be an MC, he has to do the same thing. It's really hard. But for me, this year is different. I don't have to be funny. All I have to be is a target. And given what they've said so far, I'm a pretty goddamn good target. My daughter Victoria is here tonight. Came all the way from Newport, Rhode Island. My wife Maureen is here tonight. What you may not know is that this is absolutely true. Maureen and I met at an ANCR dinner. Will you people in the back shut the fuck up? We met at the ANCR dinner, and we returned to the scene of the crime. We've been married this summer for 19 years, and it's been great. It's really been great. Our lives have changed a little bit. In the last couple of years, she only allows me to have sex twice a week. That's not too bad, however, because she cuts some guys out completely. I wanted Ray Gorman to be here tonight to be on the dais, but he turned me down. He said he wasn't up to it. He said, let all the young Turks do it. His wife is here, Patty Tamanelli, his partner. Herb Rankin. They gave me a card from Ray. They said that they were sorry that he couldn't be here, so they gave me this card. This fucking card. Jim, I never really liked you. Ray. Buy my shorts, Ray. And Ray, this thing is for you. You know what keeps compensation going? Not enough freaks and not enough circuses. We have too many damn freaks in comp. For example, Judge Chicky DiGiovanna. Who remembers her? She used to come to the park. She'd have her pet ferret sit in her lap. And this is true. She said to me, Mr. Abrams, would you like to pet my furry thing? We also had Elvis. In 180 Livingston, we used to have hearings for claimants every 3 months. And every 3 months, we had a guy show up in full Elvis regalia. He'd have it in blue, he'd have it in white, he'd have it in red, and he satin, he had the cape, he had everything. It was unbelievable. And then there was Buckethead. Yeah, Buckethead was Gail Kisner's client. Gail Kisner, that's another story. Buckethead kept a white white plastic bucket on his head. Why? He did it to protect the aluminum foil on his head. Why did he have aluminum foil? To protect him from the rays. So I asked Gail, what kind of comp claim does he have? He injured his back. Are you claiming consequential sight? No, I can't. Why? Because he works in the mental health industry as a counselor, and he doesn't want to think he's crazy. Already done. Now, at Brecker Fishman, there used to be an attorney named Miss Lavin. She tried to get together with a couple other female attorneys to open their own firm. It was Miss Orange, Miss Wiener, and Miss Long. They were going to open a firm called Lavin Long Orange Wiener. Somehow that never came to pass. We also have the lovely Judge Watson, another nut job. At the Yonkers hearing point, which was on the second floor, down the hall from the DMV, they had their break room. She was caught, not once, but twice, and the second time on tape, stealing sandwiches out of their refrigerator. That's absolutely true. As if that's not bad enough, a female attorney said, "Judge, why are you eating my yogurt?" "This is not your yogurt, it's my yogurt." "Judge, it has my name on it." And the judge said, "Why would you put your name on my yogurt?" Exactly. That's all I'm saying. Now, let's see if we can tighten some sphincters tonight. Chrissy Lang, formerly Elliot Calvin. Yes, workers' comp has their own transsexual. Maybe more, I don't know. At least one. She really hates Trump. She's resisting like hell, and she got a group of her friends together to resist, and they're calling themselves the Transistors. Ray Gorman. Ray Gorman and his wife Patty went out a few years ago for a celebration to a local bar. They walked in and the locals started harassing them, yelling and screaming, primarily yelling, "Pedophile, pedophile." Why? Because he was 50 and she was 24. It totally ruined their 12th anniversary. Bennett Silverstein. It's nice to see you set aside some special time to humiliate yourself in public. And Judge Patty Harris, Part 20. Part 20 was not a courtroom. It was held with fluorescent light. And Brian Mittman. You're fired. Yes, Brian Mittman fired me. His modus operandi was to fire people around Christmas. Why? So he wouldn't have to pay bonuses. What you don't know is my wife has wanted to send him a letter for years, thanking him for firing me and asking him, why didn't you do it a year sooner? And Jason Smoller. I think we'll wait for Jason. We'll wait till later. Mark Allen. Smart, quick, affable. Affable. Just another word for doofus. Everybody knows about his failed vasectomy story. I could go through it at length, but is it really funny? You bet your ass it is. His testicles swelled up enormously and they were jet black. Shit, funny is funny. Poor Mark. He opened his own firm and he's not doing well. The cost of living is so bad that his wife is having sex with him because she can't afford batteries. His wife even suggested that he get a penis enlarger. So he did. She's 24, her name is Kathy. Years ago, in one of his routines, Mark called me a fluffer. For those of you who don't know what a fluffer is, it's a guy who works in the X-rated film industry. His job is to keep the lead man at attention in between takes. What you don't know is we have them in our industry. Bennett Silverstein. Oh, fuck this. Bennett Silverstein is a fluffer for Marty Krutzel. It didn't seem to work out because he recently left. Rumor has it that Bennett had cold, bony hands. Marty now goes solo. In fact, he recently joined a group called Sex Without Partners. Two former judges were supposed to be here tonight, Levy and Levine. Neither one of them showed. Levy and Levine, it sounds like two Jews in a bagel factory, for Christ's sake. I guess neither one of them is here because they're not dating anymore. I can still see Levine now, sitting shoulder to shoulder with Judge Bloom. Practically hugging to see the computer, just like two nuts in a sack. In his first week, Levine said to me, "I don't know what the hell I'm doing." It was nice to see he was able to maintain that level of ignorance for 2 years. Judge Levine eventually left compensation to become a social... Would you people shut the fuck up? Judge Levine eventually left compensation to become a Social Security judge. He said it was to help mankind, but we know what it was for. I got the wrong page. Alan Catkin. He hasn't been doing too well since he was fired by Aunt Julie. But as he said, he's lost a lot of weight due to his wife. She hired rodeo clowns to distract him while she brought in groceries. Thank you. In his new job, he surrounds himself with young boys and girls. They ask questions, he gives answers. They don't know he's always wrong. The important thing for Alan is his millennials know to laugh on too. Dan Savino, stand up, Dan, where are you? Dan is the one who got this all set up for us. Thank you, Dan. You did a fabulous job. The ANCR was run for years and years by the Hellbach family. They ran it until Bob Jr. ran it into the fucking ground. I've really got nothing else to say about Bob Jr. He's just a piece of white bread Republican shit. Where was I? finally come into his own. He almost left Caruso years ago because they wouldn't make him a partner. He held on through the magic, he held on, and through some magic and wizardry, he became the senior partner. The senior partner. He has in his firm Mr. Compensation, Ron Walter. You can say that Ron Walter wrote the book, but he really wrote the book. But Dan wasn't satisfied with just having Walter. Dan wanted to beef up his firm even more. He put ads in the Staten Island Advance asking for attorneys who could speak Italian, were knowledgeable, outgoing, and gregarious. Well, Fortunato Calabro applied for the job. You see, it really wasn't a match made in heaven. Fortunato started in comp, working for Alan Catney. Fortunato wanted to show him that he really knew comp, but that ship had already sailed. Not surprisingly, he didn't get the job, and now he works part-time making pizzas in his father's pizza shop. Dan still wanting to beef up the firm, somehow ended up with Jason Smoller. To say that this is a Cinderella story is an understatement. He was made a partner practically within minutes of hiring. I believe that it's because of his soft hands. Yes, Jason is Dan Savino's fluffer. Just see the very first Friday night, they're back to the board, they're at the office all alone. Dan turns to Jason and said, and he does, and lo and behold, partnership. That's right, partnership. How is it possible that he could have done it otherwise? Jen Long. I see her every morning at about 8:30 at the Manhattan board, doing depositions, yelling at doctors. Doctor, just answer the question asked. Doctor, don't interrupt me while I'm talking. Just answer the question. It gets louder, louder, and louder. It's unbelievable. The funny part is Monica O'Brien, who sits diagonally across from her, says it sounds like this. I don't want to say too much about Jen because she could literally kick the shit out of everybody on this desk. She used to be a Marine, which means, of course, she's more than a little fucking crazy. As with many people in the industry, she's worked for several entities before she found her niche. She now works for Vecchione and Connors, and nobody in comp can say no better than Jen Long. Now, just hang in there. One more story. And this one's going to be serious. Please, please. Everybody in here, claimant people, carrier people, all of us. This is a thankless job we have, and we break our asses every day. The standard seems to be, what have you done for us lately? But we're used to that. What has pissed me off are the judges, and especially those horses' asses up in Albany, who put roadblocks in front of us. It's something almost every day. For example, I had a 9/11 case a couple of years ago. The guy was a volunteer fireman from Long Island. He had multiple cancers. All of them were either stage 3 or stage 4. He hadn't worked in 4.5 years. He got no salary, he got no comp, he got no nothing. Hey! Shut up! He got nothing. He was at risk of losing his house. This claimant and I had 4 hearings in a row in front of Brodsky. All of them were adjournments. Brodsky, as we all know, has a huge ego, loves to hear himself speak, and is no real friend of claimants. The problem is the claimant couldn't prove he was down in ground zero. On this day was my last case of the day. Today was our final chance to have a trial for the claimant to tell his story and to prove he was at ground zero. I spoke with the claimant about 40 minutes before the hearing. He testified. He was a volunteer fireman. He had a son in his mid-20s who was FDNY and worked at a firehouse right down at the Trade Center. The claimant heard that all the buildings had fallen. He grabbed his helmet, he grabbed his boots, he grabbed his breathing apparatus, he threw it in his pickup truck, and he raced to ground zero. He was essentially looking for his son. He was there for 14 hours. And the next day he was there for 12 hours. And the day after that, and the day after that, and the day after that, for 2.5 months. Each day a different place in the hole. Moving rubble, lifting piles, working on bucket lines. He knew people only by their first names. This was not a social gathering. He had no ID. He had no letters sending him there. He had no phone numbers. He had none of that. I asked if he had anything to prove that he was at ground zero. He reached in his satchel and he pulled out a recent Time magazine. He turned to a page that was dog-eared, and it was a full-page picture of an American flag stuck up on a wall. I asked him how that proved that he was at ground zero. He says it proves it because that was my flag. I was very slow and deliberate with my questions because I wanted Brodsky to get impatient, as I knew he would. He loves to hear himself speak, and once he gets going, he can't stop. Finally he said to me, "Let me see that magazine." I handed it up and said nothing. He perused the magazine and finally said, "This was your flag?" No response. "This could be anybody's flag." No response. "This proves nothing." No response. "It's a flag hanging on a wall." No response. "I can see it's at ground zero, but how do you prove it's your flag?" I had counseled the claimant not to answer questions like this and to just wait. We waited. And finally, the magic words. This flag could belong to anyone. It'd be different if you had the flag. I quietly turned to the claimant and said, "Can I have the flag?" He reached in his satchel, pulled out the flag, and handed it to me. I turned to the bench, and as I brought it up, I unfurled it As I unfurled it, ashes dropped off of it and hit the ground with puffs of smoke. By this time, the court reporters were crying, and soon everybody was crying, including myself. The claimant got 48 years of benefits and treatment at someplace other than a clinic. He was able to save his house and try and save his life. We sat outside in the waiting room all alone, and I explained the money he was going to get, and he could now go to a private doctor. I went to shake his hand, and he grabbed me and hugged me. By this time, we were both crying to death. He reached in his satchel once more. He pulled out a picture of his son in his FDNY uniform. He handed it to me as a thank you. I never received anything so precious in my life. Now look, I know Clarence Darrow. I just do what we all do. We, all of us. We don't do this for a thank you. We don't do this for only a paycheck. We do it because we're supposed to. The moral of the story, non illegitimi carborundum. Don't let the bastards wear you down. You, all of you, just continue to do what you do, no matter what those bastards in Albany do, because you guys are that fucking good. And don't let the bastards wear you down. Thank you and good night.
Filming it back here.